Hey everyone, Warwick's here. So, I haven't really talked about this a lot because I kind of wanted to try and write out a script for this, but I have failed. Started a new job, things have been busy. So, Mythic Plus, so far in Season 1 of The War Within, has probably been the weakest end game pillar of WoW. The raid, in my opinion, is very good. I really think Nerebar Palace is a good raid. My guild is still going through heroic at this point. We haven't touched Mythic yet, but everyone that I've heard said that Mythic is actually pretty fun as well. And Delves have been a success, as much as I don't personally enjoy the content as much as maybe when I did them the first like 3 times. They are successful. Many people in my guild are doing them, 8 a week, every week. And PvP has seemingly been a pretty decent start to the season so far. So from what I could tell, AWC has been quite fun to watch. So at the high end, it's been really interesting and fun to watch. I've even tried to get back into PvP a little bit this season on my Hunter. I'm not doing a ton of it, just very casually, but it's been interesting. And that leaves Mythic Plus. Now, I expressed some concern that this season's dungeon pool was very bad. Now, I didn't make any judgments on the War Within dungeons. It was just on the 4 returning dungeons, and for the most part, I think I'm still correct. I don't think they're very good overall. That said, now that we've had plenty of experience with the 4 War Within dungeons, I'm going to say that they are okay. There's not a standout dungeon. I don't think the closest one is maybe Stonevault or Dawnbreaker. I think a lot of people like Dawnbreaker. I don't particularly enjoy Dawnbreaker. I don't mind Stonevault. There's some really interesting pulls in there, some really tough pulls in there, but quite fun to both damage, heal, and tank. So for me, it's probably Stonevault is the best. Arakara is like fine. City of Threads is interesting. I hate that we have to like listen to a little bit too much RP. And then like Dawnbreaker, I don't personally enjoy it. I don't hate it, but I think it's kind of meh. So I would say like the War Within Season 1 dungeons are kind of mid, and the 4 War Within dungeons are below average. The other thing that happened is I think Blizzard kind of screwed up their scaling. They tuned the raid decently enough, but Mythic Plus has not been tuned very well. Whatever scaling they did not go over well with dungeons, whatever K values they did and things like that. And as such, keys were significantly harder than I think they should have been, to the point that, let's check right now real quick. Raider.io, what's the highest time keys in the world? .14s. So 14s right now are the highest time keys in the world. Now, granted, these are and there's only a couple of teams that are doing them, like Yoda's team, this Chinese team with Samage, and then Shaw Rush is doing a couple there with Cadle. It's a pretty new team on the block. So, like, whereas, like, you look in, and it's Mrs. Dawn Arakara, like, with a Grimbatal, a Stonevault put in there. But for the most part, these are the highest time keys in the world. You look at highest Raider.io scores in the world. Right now, it is, barely 3K. When in seasons past, we've had title range be like 3,700. Now, granted, it's still early in the season, but the fact that we haven't seen anything higher than a 14 timed at this point in time kind of tells me they really, really messed some things up. So I've been looking for dungeon tuning for quite a while now, and they were finally starting to get, I think, more aggressive changes that are long overdue. So let's talk about the now live changes, and I think these coming later today are now live as well. So we've heard feedback and challenges around the new Keystone affix and scaling structure, as well as the difficulty some players are facing with making progress with hotfixes that are now live. Runecrest are now awarded up to Mythic Plus 7. Runecrest used to be anywhere between 4 and 8, so they shrunk that by a key level. And Gilded Crest, which are the equivalent of Aspect Crests, are now being awarded beginning at Mythic Keystone 8. This is still a shift from Dragonflight when Aspect Crest were at 6. So still 2 key levels higher in order to get there, but reducing the keystone level that you get Gilded Crest by 1, I think is a really smart idea. I maybe wish they would have been at 7 with Challenger's Peril, which unfortunately did not get changed. But the fact that they made this change, I think, is a good thing. It's going to help speed up a little bit of gear progression for a lot of players, and it's going to help kind of make the eye level curve that you get going from like 605 to 620 feel a little less daunting, because there's a lot of people that I know that are stuck at like 615, 617, that range, and they can't, because they're not doing Mythic Raid or doing +9 keys. They weren't able to get the aspect crest that they needed in order to advance their characters and help them get that little bit of extra edge that they needed in order to conquer whatever content it was that they were doing. So the fact that they adjusted the key level slightly and made it so that it's possible to get them at 8, I think is a very good change. That's it, coming later today. I imagine by the time I record this, because this was posted up at 2.5 hours ago, so I'm assuming these are in. But the Keystone affixes, so the Xal'atath Bargain affix is now 30 seconds versus 20. Developer note here, we've been closely monitoring the impact of the bonuses presided by Xal'atath's Bargain affixes, and we're increasing their overall power level on players. We'll continue to monitor the effectiveness of these buffs, as well as the challenges these affixes present. Now, for example, this week's is Devour as I record, and basically you have to either heal through or dispel a healing absorb on you. Now, pretty much every class has a way to do it. Some are better than others. For example, like Monk can detox or diffuse magic, Evoker can cauterizing flame or cleanse, but some specs only have like one way to do it. Like Death Knights have to Death Strike, Demon Hunters have to gather their souls and heal. Demonology Warlocks basically only can Mortal Coil and then consume one of their precious health stones that they don't have. They have a finite resource amount of, so it's not perfect for every set. Warrior, like Impending Victory, can do some of it, but Bitter Immunity, which is a tough 3-minute cooldown to go get in the tree, is the only way to completely remove it. Otherwise, you have to rely on Impending Victory in order to get some of the healing off. So you're going to rely on your healer if you're a warrior. Go figure. But the other ones, like the buffs, always kind of felt a little bit too short for you to take any real advantage of them, especially when they spawn like right at the end of pulls and you have to travel to the next pack. So the fact that they're increasing it to 30 seconds, I think, is a good change. All right, Xal'atath's Guile. Now, this is the affix at the +12 key range, which what it does basically is it removes the Bargain affix and makes it so that enemy health and damage was increased by 20%. They are now nerfing that to 10%. Again, I think it's a good change. Now, I am not at this key range, but one of the common refrains that I'm hearing from high key pushers across the board, whether it's world first key pushers, high level title pushers, or people that barely get title every year, is that the curve, like the damage and healing curve required from 11 to 12, is incredibly steep. So the fact that they made this change to nerf that a little bit to go to 10% versus 20, we're going to see how it impacts things. Probably lessens the curve, but it still makes it so that going up to a 12 key is still going to be a challenge, and if something that you want to do, you need to be playing well. Now, I would have liked to have seen Challenger's Bargain, or the timer situation at Keystone 7, be reduced to 10 seconds versus 15, because that feels overtly punishing and is causing a lot of problems, especially in pickup groups where people are wiping like one time, and that's say 1 minute and 5 seconds off your timer, and people are just leaving the key, even though there's still like a real chance to time the key. So I would like to see that reduced to 10 seconds, and hopefully it eases that pain point a little bit. So Blizzard, if you're listening, something maybe to consider. On the next coming maintenance, this is on Tuesday, they've done dungeon tuning for the Necrotic Wake and the Stone Vault, which I think is okay. I would like to see more tuning to Grim Batal, and I would like to see some tuning to City of Threads. So the Necrotic Wake, the Zul'Ramis Gatekeeper's Wrath of Zul'Ramis, periodic damage reduced by 25%. This might make the Gatekeepers a mob worth pulling. Right now in most groups, unless you're a high key pushing gank, but most pickup groups and stuff like that, they just ignore these mobs because they do so much damage for very little gain, and they have a lot of health. So it's just a mob that we've always skipped. We skipped them back in Shadowlands. We're skipping them again here in the War Within. The skeletal monstrosity's enemy forces contributions increased by 20%. So this is going to make it so that the skeletal monstrosity is the mini boss right at the base of the stairs before Amarth. This is going to make it so that that mob is now makes it so that you could possibly skip other packs. One of the things that was going on in the Necrotic Wake is that you basically killed everything that wasn't a gatekeeper, and those were the only mobs that you left open. Maybe like one pack of like blight bags or something like that. The dungeon had no pool variety because the count was tuned very tightly, and it made it so that you didn't have any sort of skip at all. All right. So, Kyrian weapons. The effects of bloody javelins no longer stack. That's but the boss that you use them on also got to change. Surgeon's Stitch Flesh health reduced by 20%, and the Creation's Festering Rot damage reduced by 30%. So you probably can't one-phase Surgeon's Stitch Flesh anymore because the spear effect did quite a bit of damage and contributed quite a bit of damage to Stitch Flesh. With them no longer stacking, you have to now spread your spears out on different mobs, different bosses. Probably okay. Like you can use one on each of the first 3 bosses or save one for the last boss now. But they compensated Stitch Flesh, who was the problem boss in that dungeon, by reducing his health, and the ad that you used to hook him, its damage is reduced by 30%, which makes life on the tank a lot easier, because if you got 2 of those Stitch Flesh creations, you were basically dead. Like, you had to either one-phase him or you had to nuke the ad if you didn't one-phase. And not a lot of groups were able to successfully do that. Stone Vault. Again, probably my favorite dungeon from the pool. Skarmorak. Skarmorak's health reduced by 10%, which is good because, I mean, it felt like he had as much health as, like, a mini-boss in LFR. And that's 25 people beating on that mob, and here you only have 5. So I think that's a good change. Skarmorak is now stunned for 4 seconds versus 2 seconds after Fortified Shell has broken. I appreciate that change quite a bit. Allows your healer to get caught up, allows your tank to like recover cooldowns a little bit better. It just kind of helps make that boss a little bit more straightforward. And the Crystalline Eruption damage reduced by 15%. Thank you. I love that change as well, having healed that dungeon last night. That thing is gross. It does a lot of damage, and if you don't if you can't defensive all of them, you're just gonna get chunked, and you're praying that your healer can get you back up quick enough. But not all of them can. Like even on Prez Evoker, which is an amazing burst healer, if I still was struggling to kind of keep people topped in between the Crystalline Eruption charges that were going off. So very, very good change. Void Speaker Eirik, the last boss, his health reduced by 10%. I think that's fine. He was really long boss fight on Tyrannical, like it was taking like 4 or 5 minutes to kill him, which is longer than most raid fights. And then you increase the cooldown of Entropic Reckoning, which is the, I believe it's the debuff that goes on the ground, which is good because, I mean, you would have like no space towards the end of that fight, especially as this key skill's higher to Tyrannical. And on the weeks where Tyrannical is the 4 affix, it makes it really hard, even at like 6, 7, and 8s, for that boss to feel like you're killing it effectively. And then they announced an hour later that those 2 affixes went in live on all realms, so those are now active in the pool. So overall, I think these are great changes for Mythic Plus. I think it helps ease some of the skill difficulty that's there. And some people are going to be mad about this because they wanted to like feel like they were elitist because they were able to do keys that others weren't. But the point of the game is to have fun and to feel like you're making progress. And for people that love Mythic Plus, like myself, I felt like I was hitting a wall and I just wasn't making progress. And some of that is, yeah, skill related. I'm not the best player. I've always admitted that. But some of it is also the fact that there were just a lot of mistakes on Blizzard's end. They put up too many arbitrary obstacles for players to have success. And ultimately, you want to challenge the players, not bar them from success. You want them to overcome obstacles, not get, not be totally defeated by them. And hopefully these changes will do a little bit more to balance that out in a way that it feels a little bit more fair. So those are my thoughts on the changes. If you have any comments, make sure you put that down below. Like, share, subscribe. I just hit 1,000 subscribers on this YouTube channel, so I'm going to take a second to say thank you to everyone who follows this channel and subscribes and talks to me in the comments of the YouTube section. I appreciate you greatly for coming along on this little journey of mine. So until the next video, I hope you all stay safe. Hope you enjoy yourself. You're having fun. You keep on gaming, and I'll see you all in the next video.